Imagine you are holding this mummified monkey's paw right in the palm of your hand.
Oh, that is such a creepy image to start with.
Right. It's this ancient, shriveled thing, and it smells faintly of dry dust and, old magic. It was brought all the way from India,
And it comes with a catch, I assume?
a huge one.
Yeah.
It holds this terrifying promise that grants exactly 3 wishes to whoever holds it.
Okay, but getting what you wish for is never as simple as it sounds in these scenarios.
Exactly. So you make your first wish, you ask for something super simple like maybe just enough money to pay off the mortgage on your house.
Makes sense. Very practical.
But the
Oh.
moment you speak the words, the dead, leathery paw forcefully twists in your hand like a dying snake.
Ah,
Then
horrifying.
drop it immediately. And then, the next day, there's a knock at your door. A representative from the factory where your son works is standing on your porch.
Oh, no. I see where this is going.
Yeah. He informs you that your son was just caught in the heavy machinery and killed. And to compensate you for the tragic loss, the company offers a settlement check.
And let me guess, the check is for the exact amount.
Down to the penny. The exact amount of money you asked for. You realize, with this cold drop of pure dread in your stomach, that getting exactly what you want comes at a horrifying, unbearable cost.
It really is the ultimate nightmare of unintended consequences, isn't it?
Totally.
I mean, you are given the power of the gods to bend reality, but you're still bound by the tragic limitations and blind spots of just, well, being human.
Which is why our brains are so uniquely wired to be captivated by these kind of dark, ironic twists. They act as cautionary simulations for our own survival.
That simulation aspect is brilliant. It really is the engine behind our whole discussion today.
It is. And speaking of today's discussion, welcome to the Dale English Class channel. Our mission in this session is to look at how incredible bite-sized narratives do so much more than just entertain us.
Yeah, we are exploring how these stories fundamentally rewire the neural pathways in our brains,
Exactly. They expose the darkest and brightest corners of human nature. And crucially, we're going to talk about how you can use them as a practical, actionable toolkit to rapidly upgrade your English language skills.
Because the mechanism of a short narrative is just fascinating. It functions like a psychological pressure cooker.
A pressure cooker is the perfect way to describe it.
Right. Because an author doesn't have, hundreds of pages to slowly construct a universe. They are forced to grab you by the throat in the very first paragraph.
They throw you into an impossible moral or emotional dilemma right away.
And then they leave your perspective permanently altered just a few pages later.
I actually experienced that recently with a classic fable. It completely altered my perspective, but it had nothing to do with magic or humans, actually.
Oh, really? What was it about?
It was about the animal kingdom. Humans have always used animals as these fascinating avatars to safely explore our own flaws.
Oh, right. Like giving human nature a disguise.
Exactly. Take the story of the ant and the grasshopper.
Huh.
Picture the most idyllic, golden summer afternoon you can possibly imagine.
I'm picturing it. Warm sun, sweet air.
Yeah, the air smells sweet, the sun is warm, and this grasshopper is just lounging in the tall grass, strumming a little tune, completely without a care in the world.
Living his best life.
Right. But then he looks over and sees his neighbor, the ant, sweating profusely under this oppressive heat. The ant is dragging a massive, impossibly heavy kernel of corn to his underground nest.
And the grasshopper probably doesn't understand why the ant is working so hard.
He just laughs.
Mhm.
He actually mocks the ant, telling him to stop working so hard when the weather is beautiful and food is everywhere.
Which, I mean, the grasshopper in that scenario is the pure embodiment of instant gratification.
Totally.
He is existing entirely in the present tense, completely blind to the future.
But then, inevitably, that golden summer fades, the leaves drop, and this brutal, howling winter arrives overnight. The ground freezes solid.
And the grasshopper is not prepared for that at all.
Not even a little. He is out there in the biting, relentless wind. He is shivering, his fragile little limbs are stiffing with the frost, and he is starving to death because all the easy food is buried under ice.
So he has to go to the ant for help.
He drags himself to the ant's nest, desperately begging for just a single crumb to survive. But the ant, who is safe in his warm, meticulously stocked home, refuses to open the door.
Wow, that is harsh.
It's brutal. The absolute consequence of ignoring the future just comes crashing down.
The unforgiving nature of that ending is exactly what makes it stick in your memory. But, the animal kingdom isn't just a mirror for our fatal flaws.
No.
No, it is equally effective at illuminating our highest virtues, like irrational courage and loyalty.
Oh, I saw that exact virtue in the story of the mongoose, the one about Rikki Tikki
Oh,
Tavi.
that is a fantastic one.
So we are placed in this quiet bungalow in India. A wild mongoose is washed out of his burrow by a torrential flood and ends up being rescued by a human family.
But the parents aren't exactly thrilled to have a wild predator in the house, right?
They are terrified. They see this wild, sharp-toothed predator darting around their house, and they are paralyzed by the fear that it might bite their young son, Teddy, while he sleeps.
They're watching its every move with deep suspicion.
Exactly. But the real threat isn't the mongoose at all. It's this massive, venomous cobra that is slithered into the house through the bathroom drain.
Oh, that is terrifying.
The snake rears up in the dark, spreading its hood, and its cold eyes are just locked on the sleeping boy. It is inches away, coiling back for a lightning-fast, lethal strike.
And that's when the mongoose steps in.
Right as the cobra lunges, the mongoose steps right into the strike zone. He intercepts the venomous fangs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's this vicious, tumbling battle in the dark, room scales and fur, hissing and biting. The mongoose risks his own life and ultimately kills the snake.
Proving that this wild creature will fiercely protect the family he has grown to love.
Yes. But, what I really struggled to understand when reading that was my own emotional reaction to it.
What do you mean?
Well, why am I so deeply moved by a wild mongoose fighting a snake? If I read a story about, like, a human security guard doing his job to protect a child, I wouldn't feel the same profound impact.
That's a really good point.
Why do we accept these heavy emotional truths more readily when a mongoose or a grasshopper is the one delivering them?
It actually comes down to a psychological mechanism called cognitive distance.
Cognitive distance.
Yeah. If I tell you a story about a human who is lazy, makes terrible financial choices, and ends up starving, your ego instantly kicks in to defend that human. Or, more accurately, to defend yourself.
Oh, because I see myself in the human character.
Exactly. You think, well, that person just had bad luck, or I would never be that foolish. Your brain throws up a firewall.
But when the protagonist is a grasshopper,
Your psychological defenses remain completely lowered. You aren't an insect, so your brain doesn't perceive the narrative as a personal attack.
that makes so much sense. Using animals is like giving human nature a disguise. It makes the bitter medicine of a moral lesson go down much easier.
Precisely. The animal disguise successfully bypasses your ego, delivering the harsh moral truth straight into your subconscious. You internalize the lesson without the fiction of human pride.
But okay, that ego bypass works perfectly for simple individual moral failings like greed or laziness.
Right.
But how do our brains process critiques when the flaw isn't individual but societal? When human virtues, even good intentions, are pushed to the absolute extreme by a collective group, they require a different kind of disguise.
And this brings us to the terrifying realm of dystopian futures.
Yes, dystopias are fascinating because they explore the exact moment when the pursuit of a perfect, orderly society tips over into a living hell.
Like taking a good idea way too far.
Exactly. Consider a world set in the year 2081. In this society, everyone is mandated by law to be equal.
Which sounds good on paper, right?
It does, but it doesn't mean equal rights or equal opportunity. It means aggressively, physically, identically equal. Nobody is allowed to be smarter, better looking, or more athletic than anyone else.
And the government enforces this, I'm assuming?
Through horrifying measures. If you are highly intelligent, you are forced to wear a government-issued earpiece that blasts ear-splitting, disruptive noises like crashes and sirens every 20 seconds.
Just to ruin their train of thought.
Literally preventing you from stringing a coherent thought together.
Wow. So actively shatters the brain's focus with physical pain just to bring the population's intelligence down to the lowest common denominator.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And it extends to every human attribute. If you are a graceful, brilliant ballet dancer, you are forced to wear heavy bags of lead birdshot padlocked around your neck and limbs.
Oh, just dragging you down so you stumble awkwardly.
Right. And if you possess natural beauty, you are legally required to wear a grotesque, hideous mask so no one else feels insecure looking at you.
That is just so disturbing.
The tension builds until this brief, shocking moment where a young man actually breaks out of prison, storms into a television studio, and rips off his heavy lead weights.
He rebels against the whole system.
Yes. He rips the ugly masks off the dancers. And for one brief, soaring moment, They dance with unimaginable grace, completely defying gravity and the law.
But it doesn't last, does it?
No. The government's handicapper general walks into the studio and literally shoots them dead on live television to restore the mandated equality.
That is a devastating exploration of forced conformity.
It really is.
But it's vital to recognize that it isn't just futuristic sci-fi technology that brings out our darkest societal impulses.
You mean?
Well, often the most terrifying reflections of human conformity are wrapped in quaint, familiar traditions.
Oh, that reminds me of the story about the sunny, picturesque village holding their annual summer lottery.
Yes, that's a perfect example.
It's this beautiful morning. The flowers are blooming. The grass is richly green. The entire town of 300 people gathers in the main square.
It feels as comfortable and normal as a local farmer's market.
Exactly. Neighbors are catching up, children are laughing, and playfully gathering a pile of smooth stones in the corner of the square.
This setting is deliberately designed to disarm you with this profound normalcy.
But then, a black wooden box is brought to the center of the square. The mystery really begins to build. The head of each family is required to step up and draw a folded slip of paper.
You can just feel the nervous sweat on their palms.
And the breathless tension in the crowd as the papers are opened. Someone in this town is being randomly chosen.
Chosen for what, though?
Right. When the final victim is selected, the chilling reality of the tradition sets in. This beautiful, polite town suddenly turns into a mindless mob.
And those stones the kids were gathering?
The neighbors, friends, and even family members of the victim happily walk over and pick up those smooth stones. They willingly participate in a profound, unexplainable evil, stoning their neighbor to death, simply because it is what they've always done.
It is terrifying what people will do just to keep their society's traditions stable.
When I look at these dystopias, whether it's the forced equality of 2081 or the violent tradition of the village, it feels like patching a minor software bug by taking a sledgehammer to the entire computer.
That is a great way to put it.
Technology, equality, and tradition are supposed to improve human life. So why are we so drawn to exploring societies that go so terribly wrong? Why does the mindless pursuit of these values end up destroying the humanity they are meant to protect?
From a psychological standpoint, the human brain desperately craves cognitive ease and order. Ambiguity and inequality cause psychological friction.
So we want easy answers.
Right. We are drawn to these dystopian nightmares because they serve as a moral alarm system for that craving. They test the structural integrity of our values.
Like stress testing a bridge.
Exactly. We read them and are forced to ask, is our desire for fairness morphing into a suppression of excellence? Is our comfort with tradition actually just a disguised cruelty?
By running these worst-case simulations in fiction, we train our moral compasses to detect the subtle, incremental shifts toward conformity in the real world.
Yes, we use the fiction to calibrate our real-world warnings. But, societal rules are enforced externally by governments or mobs. What happens when we look at the invisible internal rules of intimacy? The landscape of the human heart is often far more dangerous and unpredictable than any dystopian government.
Oh, absolutely. Society's rules are external, but our deepest conflicts are internal.
And those internal conflicts of connection and isolation carry a much heavier emotional weight because there is no external villain to blame.
That brings to mind the emotional roller coaster of a woman named Mrs. Mallard. She suffers from a very weak, fragile heart condition.
So she has to be treated very delicately.
Right. One afternoon, her sister and her husband's friend come to her with devastating news. Her husband has been killed in a horrific train accident.
Oh, wow.
And because of her delicate heart, they deliver the news in gentle, broken sentences, terrified the shock of the grief might literally kill her.
Which is a completely reasonable fear.
She reacts as anyone would. She bursts into wild, passionate tears and flees upstairs, landing herself in her bedroom.
The initial reaction aligns perfectly with the societal expectation of profound loss.
But inside that locked room, the story twists a knife into everything we assume about grief. She sinks into an armchair, physically exhausted. She looks out the open window at the patches of blue sky, feeling the warm spring breeze.
And she starts to feel something else.
Slowly, a realization bubbles up from the depths of her chest. It's this intoxicating, terrifying excitement. She begins to whisper a single word over and over. Free, free, free.
Wow, the heavy grief just rapidly transmutes into a euphoric realization of her own independence.
Exactly. She realizes she will never again have to bend her will to her husband's demands. She's flooded with the joy of a long, liberated life ahead of her.
Finding liberation in the death of a spouse is a scandalous, deeply taboo psychological shift.
It really exposes the hidden claustrophobia of her marriage.
But then comes the climax, right?
The jaw-dropping climax. She finally unlocks the door, carrying herself like a goddess of victory, and walks down the stairs. And at that exact moment, a key turns in the front door.
No way.
Her husband walks in, carrying his briefcase. He was never anywhere near the train accident. He didn't even know there had been one.
Oh my gosh.
The sheer shock of seeing him alive, the instant, crushing realization that her newfound freedom has been violently snatched away, causes her weak heart to completely give out. She drops dead on the rug.
Just like that.
Yes. The doctors arrive and claim she died of the joy that kills, entirely missing the dark, suffocating truth of her internal world.
That is the ultimate tragic irony. The medical professionals assume her heart couldn't survive the joy of his return, when in reality, her soul couldn't survive the loss of her autonomy.
Exactly.
But, contrast that incredibly complex adult suffocation with the gentle intimacy of a children's nursery.
Okay, a big shift in tone.
Think of a simple, unassuming stuffed rabbit with velveteen fur and thread whiskers.
Oh, the story of the Velveteen Rabbit. On Christmas morning, this rabbit is given to a young boy. But within hours, the rabbit is completely ignored, shoved into a dark corner in favor of much fancier, expensive mechanical toys that whir and light up.
It's just left there in the dark.
Utterly forgotten. So he engages in this deep internal pondering. He asks the oldest, wisest toy in the nursery, the skin horse, what it actually means to be real.
And the skin horse explains that being real isn't how you are manufactured. It is a state of being that only happens to you when a child loves you for a very long time.
And eventually, a special event brings the boy and the toy together. The boy takes the rabbit everywhere. He sleeps with him, talks to him, takes him into the garden.
The rabbit gets lots of love.
Over time, the rabbit's pristine velveteen fur is rubbed entirely off. His pink nose loses its color. He becomes ragged, shabby, and falling apart.
But through that intense, relentless love, the rabbit is fundamentally transformed.
Exactly. The physical wear and tear is the exact evidence that he has gained a soul and become real.
The physical degradation is the price of his spiritual awakening.
When I compare these two stories, it points to a fascinating contradiction. In Mrs. Mallard's story, human connection felt like a suffocating cage she was relieved to escape.
Right, it dissolved her identity.
But for the Velveteen Rabbit, human connection is the exact magic required to make you real. It seems like love is the ultimate double-edged sword.
That tension reveals the dual nature of vulnerability. Authentic connection requires giving up a portion of your autonomy.
Which works for the rabbit.
Yes, for the rabbit, surrendering to the boy's love gives him a profound purpose. But for Mrs. Mallard, the surrender of her autonomy meant the systematic suppression of her spirit.
These narratives teach us that human connection is the most powerful force we experience. It can breathe life into us, but if it demands the erasure of our identity, it has the equal power to destroy us.
That is a staggering psychological insight to pull from just a few pages of text.
It really is. But let's transition from the emotional impact of these narratives to their highly practical application.
Yes, let's talk about how to actually use these stories.
How do you, the listener, take these intense tales and actually use them to sharpen your mind and master the English language?
This is where we bridge the gap between literary art and cognitive utility. You can utilize these narratives as a highly actionable language toolkit.
Okay, I'm taking notes. What's the first tool?
The first essential tool is the five-finger test.
The five-finger test.
Yeah. When you open a story, physically hold up a fist while you read the first paragraph. Every time you encounter a vocabulary word you don't know, raise a finger.
Okay, simple enough?
If all 5 fingers go up before you reach the end of the paragraph, the text is too complex for your current level.
Oh, wow. I love the immediacy of that.
It provides an immediate physical metric to ensure you are operating in the zone of proximal development. Challenged, but not overwhelmed.
It keeps you in the sweet spot of learning without burning out. But what happens when you are in the right zone and you hit those 2 or 3 unknown words?
That brings us to the second tool, context clues. The most common mistake learners make is stopping at every single unknown word to consult a dictionary.
It totally ruins the flow.
Exactly. When you encounter a strange word, treat the surrounding sentence like a detective's crime scene. Look at the emotional tone of the paragraph, observe the actions the characters are taking, and force your brain to predict the meaning.
So guess before looking it up.
Yes. From a neuroscience perspective, your brain is a prediction engine. When you actively guess a word's meaning before confirming it, you create a stronger neural pathway than if you just passively read the definition.
That makes perfect sense. Honestly, stopping to look up every single word is exactly like pausing your treadmill every 10 seconds to check your heart rate.
That is a perfect
You
analogy.
completely lose all the physical momentum, you lose your stride, and you just ruin the joy of the run.
You lose the rhythm of the language entirely, which leads directly to the third tool, active reading and summarization.
Active reading, how does that work?
Keep a dedicated notebook beside you. When you finish a story, close the book and rewrite the core narrative in your own words.
Oh, wow. That sounds challenging.
It is, but by forcing your brain to recall the new vocabulary and independently reconstruct the English syntax, you cement the concepts into your long-term memory.
I want to push back slightly on the idea of just learning vocabulary and syntax, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Take the story of the American man and the young girl at the Spanish train station. They are sitting in the blistering heat looking out at hills that look like white elephants. They are drinking beer and having a conversation, but they are desperately dancing around the actual issue. The entire story is driven by subtext.
Almost nothing is explicitly stated.
Right, so how does decoding the unsaid things in a story like that actually build real-world English fluency, rather than just teaching you textbook grammar?
Well, textbook grammar teaches you the mechanical rules of a language, but stories teach you the chaotic reality of human communication.
Because real people are messy.
Exactly. Native speakers rarely say exactly what they mean in real life. We deflect, we use sarcasm, we hesitate, and we rely heavily on passive-aggressive tones.
So true.
When you read a narrative where the characters are speaking in circles, where the true tension lives entirely in the blank spaces between their words, you are actively training your brain's social intuition.
You learn to interpret emotional cues, the pacing of a dialogue, and the heavy weight of silence.
Yes, you are learning to hear the music of the language, not just reading the mechanical notes on the page.
You are learning to read the human being.
Precisely. Knowledge is most valuable when it changes how you perceive your own reality.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you to mull over today. The greatest stories you will ever encounter aren't just things you read.
What are they then?
They're things that read you.
Oh, I like that.
When a story leaves things unsaid, or when it creates an uncomfortable silence, it forces you to project your own internal fears, desires, and biases into the text to make sense of it.
It forces you to look closer at the narrative.
Exactly. Which in turn trains you to look closer at the unspoken truths, the hidden tensions, and the quiet realities in your own life and relationships. You aren't just decoding the English language, you're decoding yourself.
The stories are simply the mirror.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us here at the Dale English Class channel for this exploration.
It's been a great discussion.
If these narratives sparked your curiosity or shifted your perspective today, please interact with us. Like this video, leave a comment below with your favorite story from today's session, share it with a fellow language learner, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more incredible lessons. Keep reading, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.